All right, welcome again back to the river. It's Wednesday night. Light crowd tonight, but listen, when the topic's math, you're going to drive some people off. But I'm excited to be here because we're going to learn some ultra awesome stuff that God has hidden deep in His Word, and He is going to explain it in as simple terms as possible, I'm sure. But I cannot wait to hear what those nuggets are that God hid deep in His Word that He left for us to find. So we're going to give John just a second to get his mic on and get ready. But just know we love you. We're thinking about you. We've got several more nights of Sukkot where we're doing this. Everybody that's on the internet, so just know we're going to keep doing this at about 7 o'clock for the next several nights, and we'll tell you when we're stopping. All right, John's going to come up here in just a second and be ready, and then we're good to go.
Testing. I saw. We've already spoken. Ah. Uh-huh. Am I supposed to start talking? Oh, okay. Okay, tonight's math night. Where's my remote control? And you know, I used to be a math teacher, like from 1984 until 94 for 10 years. So I was going to get a ruler instead of the stick. Smack hands who aren't paying attention. But we can't seem to find a ruler, but that's okay. I'll use the stick. I called the ruler company, and they said that they're not making rulers any longer. I guess 12 inches is long enough, right?
There you go.
They're not going to make them any longer. What? Give me a longer stick. Okay, so tonight is math night, and whenever I find some new, clever, cool math thing, I throw it in a file. And once that file gets big enough, it's a talk for one of the nights in Seymour. So it's a hodgepodge of all different math stuff. And here's the first one. In 1 Kings 10, it says, the weight of gold that came to Solomon yearly was 666 talents of gold. That's interesting. Why would Solomon be 666? You know, that's odd. It shows up 2 or 3 times in the Old Testament, this number. And some claim that Solomon is a type of Jesus, and Solomon is also a type of Antichrist. Yeah, he ended up with 300 wives and 700 concubines, and he was worshiping other gods. And so there was a part where he went off, but then there was a part where he was good. So there's a little hint that maybe he was a little antichristic. But here is that phrase for 666 talents. It's shesh is 6, meot, 100, shishim is 60, va-shesh, what's the vav? And then kikar. And you know what? This is so cool. Remember we told you every Hebrew letter has a value, and we have these papers. Anybody? There's one up here. Anyone else? But the sad thing is that this far column, the numbers didn't print, so maybe it doesn't help you anyway. And if I put the values in here, oh, what's happening? It's going backwards. Why is it going backwards? Whole different buttons working here. Okay, then we take the first letter of each word and put their values in. And guess what? They add up to 666. I think that's pretty cool. It's 666, the first letter of each word of that. People don't seem to be impressed. I thank you. As a math teacher, as long as I get his approval, I'm happy. Yeah. Yes. It says there's 666 talents, and if you write out 666 talents, the first letter of each one adds up to 666. That's clever. Okay. Now, has anyone ever heard of Atbash? Okay. This will be a whole new thing that God does, you'll see. Atbash, let's see. Here's a verse where we're going to use Atbash. In Jeremiah 25:26, it says, all the kings of the north, both near and far, one after another, all the kingdoms on the face of the earth, and after all of them, the king of Sheshach will drink too. The king of Sheshach. Anyone know who the king of Sheshach is? Anyone even know where Sheshach is? You know what? You can search maps. There is no place called Sheshach. It actually shows up again. Here, look. Jeremiah 51. Oh, how Sheshach is taken. Oh, how the praise of the whole earth is seized. How Babylon has become a desolate among the nations. Here it's mentioning Sheshach again. But no one knows where Sheshach is because it doesn't exist. But he's using this name multiple times. So here's what God has done. And I'm going to give you multiple examples. So this is just not some rare occurrence here. So Sheshach, that's what we're looking for. It's a shin, and it's a final cough. Here's the Hebrew alphabet. Okay. And what we're going to do with it is we're going to cut it in half and take the second half and wrap it around. Watch, because it's going to happen. It's going to go in like things are going to move here. Ready? You like that? Yeah, it took about a day to figure out how to do that. So we just wrapped it around. After the cough is lamed, so I moved lamed down here, mem, okay? And now we're going to do a substitution. So we'll take, oh, by the way, where did we get the word, the atbash? What's the first letter? Aleph. Here, you watch. Aleph, Tav, Bet, Shin. And that spells Atbash. So when you write the letters backwards, those first four letters spell Atbash. And we're going to substitute. So we will take Sheshach, and the Shin will substitute a B, a Bet. Once I wrap around,
are above and below each other.
We're going to
Replace the one with the other.
see if it's a shin, we substitute it with a bet.
It's a cipher.
And then here's another bet, and the kaf substitutes with the lamed. Okay, and when you do that, you get Babel, which is already mentioned in the verse. Okay, so it's just a way of God hiding like a code name for Babel. Now you can say, well, maybe it was just a coincidence that happened, but it happens a lot. He hides things in there, and we'll show you other ones where he's done that. Look at this one, Jeremiah 51. Thus says the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon, against those who dwell in Lev Kamai, a destroying wind. What's Lev Kamai? Again, there's no historical place of that. So we bend that around, move Lev Kamai, and these letters are all going to switch and replace. And when you do, you get Kasdim. Kasdim actually is something. Kasdim, it's all through the Bible. It is the Chaldeans. And who are the Chaldeans? They are the people who lived in Babylon, in that whole Shinar plain. So that's kind of clever, because there is no such thing as Lev Kamai, but if you do that substitution, you get Chaldeans, or the Hebrew word that means Chaldeans. And this Kasdim, that's how it is in the Hebrew in the Old Testament. I'll show you another example. It says, for 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past, or like a watch in the night. Well, you've heard, for God, a day is like 1,000 years. 1,000 years is like a day. Here's the Old Testament verse that confirms that. There's also a New Testament verse that confirms that. Okay? But if he's saying 1,000 years is like yesterday, there should be some equalness. Yesterday and 1,000 years should be equal to one another. And in God's thinking, it's going to be. Okay? Here's what we'll do. We'll take 1,000 years and we'll write it in Hebrew. Well, Aleph is how you say 1,000. Remember, Aleph is 1, but then you go the whole way around and you come to Aleph. It's just pronounced differently, but Aleph is 1,000. Spelled the same as Aleph, 1. Okay? So here's Aleph, 1,000. And here's Shanim. Shanim is years. So 1,000 years is going to add up to 511. Wouldn't it be clever if yesterday adds up to 511? Let's see. Before we add up, we'll keep you in suspense. There's a little side lesson. It's going to take 5 minutes to explain you, but it's really a cool lesson. And we're going to go back to Exodus 33, and this is when Moses is up on the mountain and he wants to see God. And God says, you cannot see my face, for no man can see me and live. Then Yahweh said, behold, there is a place by me, and you shall stand there on the rock. And it will come about, while my glory is passing by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take my hand away, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. You remember this verse, right? So he's going to see his back, and I want you to see that word for back is right here. It's achar. Aleph, chet, resh. The chet is not the hay, okay? It's the harder sound. So achar means back. So why am I even bringing this up? Because the word for tomorrow is machar. You notice that achar and machar sound similar, right? And achar means back or behind, after. And from that we get tomorrow. That seems odd. And you know what? The word for opposite or in front of is mul. And the word for yesterday is atamul. Now that becomes doubly weird, because it's saying tomorrow is behind you and yesterday comes from in front of you. That's backward. No, we got to be careful, because this is God's way. Somebody's backwards. How about that? I'm not sure it's us. Well, we do know Isaiah 55 says, for as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. So if God put it this way, Take it up with Julia if you got a problem.
Well, the time in front of the time you are now is past. So that's yesterday.
No, here's how he looks at it.
Tell me how he looks at it, but that still makes sense.
Tomorrow, do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? No. It's behind you. You can't see tomorrow. Yesterday is right in front of you. You know everything that happened yesterday. It's in front of you. It happened. And that's how God thinks. And you know what? That's how Jews think. When I talk to my friend Roby, who is now departed, but his mindset is tomorrow is behind me. I don't know what tomorrow is, but I know yesterday I've seen it all. It's in front of me. And you know, there's a lot of those little kind of backward thinking things that the Jews think that way, and the Jews are successful in everything they do almost, you know. They're in God's thinking. And so we should be in God's thinking, okay? So that's the little side thing about yesterday and tomorrow, because that verse did say yesterday and 1,000 years. So I wanted to point that out. I'm not going to charge you for that one. You're welcome. So here's that word etimol, that's yesterday. And here's the gematria values. And you can see when you plug them in, they add up to not 511. Rats. Newman. Okay, but we can fix that because we have Atbash. And you put etmil in there. The aleph switches with the tav with the aleph. Mem and yod. Pei and lamed, pei and vav, kaf and lamed, put those values. So yesterday and 1,000 years are equal in God's eyes. Very clever. Yeah. I'll give you another example of Atbash. It says here in Genesis 19:24, then Yahweh rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahweh out of heaven. Remember, this is when Yahweh, the Lord, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, he was down on earth talking to Abraham, right? Abraham killed an animal, made meat and bread and milk, and not very kosher meal, but he did serve him meat and milk, and God didn't object. You know, he ate. So we have Yahweh is down on earth, and then he said he's going to go down to Sodom and Gomorrah or send the angels down to destroy them. But we know Yahweh is on earth when this is said. So it has here, Yahweh rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahweh in heaven. So I got Yahweh on earth, and I got Yahweh in heaven. How can he be two places at once? Unless he's three. So let's have a look at this. I went ahead and drew a picture. Here's the earth down here. There's the heavens, the blue, and then this is the air in between. Okay? And let's put Yahweh, because it says then Yahweh. He rained brimstone and fire. So let's put some fire up there in the heaven. Okay? By the way, fire is represented by the letter shin. Doesn't shin look, it's better in this font. This font, it really looks like fire, doesn't it? Because it's got 3 flames there. Okay? But I usually use this font. But it's the sh sound, it's teeth, fire, its value is 300. And just so you know, whenever you see 300 in the Bible, it's often refers to fire. Remember when Gideon, he had 32,000 troops? This is not in part of the lesson, but I'm going to just throw this in. but he's got 32,000. God says, you got too many, send some home. And who wants to go home? 22,000 went home. And then God says, you still have too many, send some home. And more go, oh no, that's when whoever lapped the water or pulled the water up to their hand, but it narrowed down to 300. And everybody else went home. And those 300 each got a clay pot, and in the clay pot was fire. And then they circled the enemy, and on the trumpet blast, they busted their pots, and fire showed up all around. Enemy was in confusion and killed themselves. But there you have 300 and fire associated together, right? When Samson learned, he went to see his wife, and her father said, oh, I didn't think you loved her, so I gave her to your friend. He was upset. And he went out and caught 300 foxes, tied them, which I don't know how, I couldn't find one fox. You give me a week, how does he go find 300? But he ties their tails together and lights them on fire. 300, you understand? Fire, 300 fire, they go together like 300 and fire. We also have in the New Testament, in Acts chapter 2, when the Holy Spirit was sent, it was like tongues of fire, they said, right? And it said Peter preached and 3,000 were saved. That's 300 times yod, times 10. Because the Spirit was there. That's fire, okay? So just know that those are connected. Onward. Okay, he rained fire on Sodom and Gomorrah. So we'll put Sodom and Gomorrah down here on earth. From Yahweh. So we got Yahweh in two places. We can put in the value of Yahweh. It's Yud He Vav He. And let's see. Let's do an Atbash. If we do an Atbash on Yahweh, the Yud becomes Mem. The He becomes Tzadi. The Vav is Pei. And the He becomes another Tzadi. What is formed is not a Hebrew word. It doesn't have to be a Hebrew word. Let's put in the Gematria. 90, 80, 90, 40 adds up to 300. Shin. Oh, get back here. What's happening? What's happening? So we have Yahweh is the fire if you do an Atbash on his name, the 300. So it's not just some crazy thing. There's many examples of that. Okay, so just know it does exist. And they have other ciphers also. You know, you can get into all kind of crazy stuff. And you want to be careful because you start creeping into the Kabbalah, stuff. And we don't want to do that. Okay. But this is. You see it, right? Okay. And now, we've talked about that these values, they go 1 to 10, then 20 to 100, 200, 300, 400, and then you have those final form letters, right? There's certain letters that if it's the last letter of the word, you use this shape. And if it's not, you use that shape, okay? Well, the Gematria values can continue for them, because when you get to 400 here, then final Kaf is 5, final Mem is 6, final Noon 700, final Pei 800, final Tzadi 900, and then 1,000 would be Aleph. It goes back to Aleph, but it's pronounced Elef. And they'll put an Aleph with an apostrophe after it. If it has an apostrophe after it, that's 1,000. And if you have Beit with an apostrophe, 2,000. Got it? So you can get big numbers with a Hebrew. Now, the Gematria values for the final forms, you don't see those inserted very often. If you wanted to tell somebody a big number, hey, bring me 750, then you might use the 700. You might use the noon so feet for 700. But you usually don't see the bigger so feet numbers plugged in for gematria. But I have an example or two to show where you can actually plug them in, and they do amazing things. Let's take the name Elohim, which we know Elohim is God. It's his title, right? Not his name. And put in the gematria values. Elohim adds up to 86. And we've shown you before, if you take the first three letters of his name, they add up to 36. And 36 is a perfect triangle number. If you take the middle three letters of his title, they add up to 45, which is a perfect triangle number. If you take the last three of his title, it's 55, perfect triangle number. Okay? And they all add up to 86. Greek also has their version of gematria. It's called isosophy. Only 2 languages on the planet have values for their letters. Hebrew, gematria, and Greek, isosophy. So here's the Greek alphabet and the values of those. In the New Testament, in the Greek, he's not called Elohim, he's called Theos. That's the equivalent of Elohim. And here's the isosophy values of Theos is 284. And what's neat is if you add those together, God in Hebrew plus God in Greek, it adds up to 370. And what I mentioned yesterday, 37 is God's number. Okay, he just got 37s everywhere. And here's an example of one of those. Okay, 370. Here's Genesis 1:1. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et haaretz. Notice the third letter of the Bible is an aleph, right? And the 9th letter of the Bible is an aleph. So is the 10th letter, the 15th letter, the 23rd letter, and the 26th letter. So he has 6 alephs in Genesis 1:1. And aleph represents Elohim, right? And watch this. If you add all those together, it comes out to 86. Again, pointing to aleph, pointing to God. Okay? If I put in the gematria values of every letter in Genesis 1:1, and here I've put in the sophit values, because the tzadi would normally be 90, but because it's a final sophit, it's 900. It doesn't really matter on this, because we're going to drop all the zeros. And if I drop all the, we'll light them up, and then drop all the zeros. So 900 or 90, I don't care. It's 9, right? 2, 1, 5, 4, 1. And if you add up all those digits with the zeros taken out, they add up to 86. Okay? Elohim, 86, no problem. What's next? The word for spirit in Hebrew is ruach. It's also the Hebrew word for wind. But we hear of the ruach Elohim in verse 2 of Genesis 1, right? And the Spirit of God was hovering over the deep, okay, or the waters. So spirit is ruach. It's a resh, 200, vav, 6, het, 8. Spirit adds up to 214, okay? And if you add those together, is that what we're going to do? Let me see. Oh, yes, if we add those together, we get 300. And what do we know about 300? Fire. All right? And the Holy Spirit is associated with fire. So it's very clever how that works. Acts chapter 2, there it is, the tongues of flames of fire when the Holy Spirit was sent. Remember the Sophite values. And what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to take Elohim, because that's a final mem, right? Let's replace it with the Sophite value of 600. You see what I did, Donna? I can tell by your face you can't. Elohim ends in a final mem. Yes. Which is 40. But remember, the final mem is actually 600. So instead of 40, I'm just going to put in the 600. Okay? And when I do, this now, Elohim now adds up to 646. Right? And so Ruach Elohim together adds up to 860, which is 86 times 10. Okay? So Ruach Elohim is God, 86. If you take Elohim, which is 86, and add it to Yahweh, Yud He Vav He is 26, and add it to Yeshua, because Yahweh Elohim is Yeshua, that all adds up to Aleph, 1,000, which is Aleph, God. Okay? Now, God has a name. We've talked about that many times. His name is Yud He Vav He, Yahweh, which adds up to 26. Sometimes he has a shortened version. Yah, right? Which is just adds up to 15, Yud He. That's his name, and that's not to confuse that with his title. Wait a minute. This is as bad. Yeah, I messed up here. That shouldn't be 26. Elohim is how much? 86. Mistake. Okay. Sorry. That's 86, Elohim. And sometimes that's his title. And sometimes he has a shortened version of the title, which is just El. And El is 31. Okay? And all of these names and titles all point to Aleph. Remember, that's 86 up there, right? Not 26. Now, how do they all point to Aleph? Well, if you go back to the beginning of the book and start reading, here's Bereshit bara Elohim. Here's verse 1. Bereshit bara Elohim et. That is the 15th letter. The 15th letter of the Bible is an Aleph, which 15, that was the value of Yah. And then the 26th letter of the Bible is an Aleph, over here in Haaretz. And that was Yahweh. And then you come over here, and the 31st letter is an Aleph. 31 was El. And then you continue down, the 86th letter of the Bible is an Aleph, and that was Elohim. Okay? So that's kind of wow-inducing, at least from the second table. In Genesis 11, this is Tower of Babel talk, and they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." So here you had Nimrod and these people. They were trying to build a tower to the heavens to make a name for themselves, right? They want to be their own God, right? And God realizes the futility of them trying, and he puts a stop, mixes up their language. But look here where it says, you see this word here, let us make a name for ourselves. Here is that Hebrew word for us. It's a lamed nun vav. Lamed nun vav. Lanu is us. And if you put in the gematria, lamed is 30, nun is 50, vav is 6. It adds up to 86. So they are trying to be a god and build a tower for their own name and make a name for themselves. And God goes, no, there's only 186, and that's me. And oh, right. Yes. Okay. Here's Psalm 86. And I'm going to stand. Where am I going to stand? No, I'll just stand right where I am. It's just hard to turn my head and read. We're going to read the whole chapter. It's not long, but it's probably 3 slides here. So Psalm 86. If God likes this 86ness, he's going to incorporate it in a place. And by the way, in the Old Testament, the chapter divisions, that this will be chapter 1, and then this will be chapter 2, even the verse, we'll call this verse 1, and this one we'll start verse 2 here, that was all man-made. You understand? God didn't decide this is where chapter 3, verse 7 starts. He just gave everything, and then we divided it up, man divided it up and put numbers in. The Psalms are different. The Psalms were numbered, okay? This is the 86th Psalm. David wrote 176, I don't know, how many do you, 150 Psalms, but they were numbered by the writer, okay? So when you say 86 Psalm, it's not an arbitrary, this one's the 86, or is that one the 86? No, this one's the 86. Incline your ear, Yahweh, and answer me, for I am afflicted and needy. Protect my soul, for I am godly. You, my God, save your servant who trusts in you. There's going to be a lot of praising in here. Be gracious to me, Lord, for I call upon you all day long. Make the soul of your servant joyful. For to you, Lord, I lift up my soul. For you, Lord, are good and ready to forgive and abundant in mercy to all who call upon you. Listen, Yahweh, to my prayer. Give attention to the sound of my pleading. On the day of my trouble, I will call upon you, for you will answer me. There's no one like you among the gods, Lord, nor are there any works like yours. All nations whom you have made will come and worship before you, Lord, and they will glorify your name. For you are great, and you do wondrous deeds. You are alone, our God. Teach me your way, Lord. I will walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name. I will give thanks to you, Lord my God, with all my heart, and I will glorify your name forever. And for your graciousness toward me is great, and you have saved my soul from the depths of Sheol. God, arrogant men have risen up against me, and a gang of violent men have sought my life, and they have not set you before them. But you, Lord, are a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abundant in mercy and truth. Turn to me and be gracious to me. Grant your strength to your servant and save the son of your maidservant. Show me a sign for good, that those who hate me may see it and be ashamed, because you, Lord, have helped me and comforted me. Okay. The one I want to really point out is verse 17. Because verse 17 says, show me a sign. And whenever he's going to show a sign, that's always going to be a good thing. Right? You got to look for it, but if you're asking for one, he's going to give it. Here is all of Psalm 86 in English. Okay? But we don't play in English, right? So let's turn it to Hebrew. And it turns out in that psalm there are 576 letters. This 576, is that anything special about 576? Thank you. It's 24 times 24. Okay? So at least we know it is a perfect square, the number of letters involved. Okay? And remember that the New Testament is in Greek, and they use isosophy, because what he's going to do here in Psalm 86, he's going to be combining Greek and Hebrew for his sign. Okay? So, here's the 576 is a square, and they're all lined up on top of each other, right? No problems? Okay. The word for spirit in Greek is pneuma, and it adds up to 576. So I now have the spirit tied in with 86 Psalm. Yep. Okay. Yeshua, Jesus, in Greek, Yeshua is Jesus, adds up to 888. So I could take this 24 grid and do this to it. I could. Now I got 888. Yes, it is. Okay, 24 across, 24 up and down. So I still have my 576 spirit. I have 86 God, because there's 86 Psalm. I have 576, which is spirit, and I have 888, which is Jesus. They're all tied in here. Okay. What else we got? How about Elohim? We already said was 86. 86 Psalm. Okay. We got them all there. What if we take the word for Adonai is kurios in the Greek, adds up to 800, and Yeshua 888. What's happening? Christos. Christos is the Greek word for Christ, Messiah. Christos adds up to 1480. Okay? And he is the Lord Jesus Christ, right? He's Kurios, Iousis, Christos. That would be his title, Lord Jesus Christ. And all of those, okay, Christos is Christ. And if we just squeeze those up there, they add up, his title, Lord Jesus Christ, adds up to 3,168. Okay? Now, watch this. This is another one took half a day to do. Okay, it's gonna go fast. Ready? What happened? Let's see. Okay, there's that. And you like that? We're going to watch it again because it took so long to make. 3168. When I make this 8x8 cross in the center, there you add up the values of all these in the cross, add up the ordinate values, they add up to 3,168. Now, when I say add up the ordinate values, what are ordinate values? I don't want you to add up the gematria values. Ordinate value is, where are they in the alphabet? Okay? So here's a noon. Let's not start with a noon. That's a hard one. I think it's 14. Where's an aleph? I know aleph is 1. But you understand, just where in the alphabet is it? And it forms a cross, which is the value of Lord Jesus Christ. You're asking for a sign. He's giving you a sign. Okay? And when you say, show me a sign for good, the Hebrew word for sign is ot. It's aleph, vav, tav. Aleph is God, vav is a nail, tav is a cross. So if you really want a sign, how about God nailed to a cross? Right? That's the ultimate sign. And what sign did he just show us? In 86, there was a sign. It was the picture of a cross. Right? And we have a green box in the middle. If you add up the gematria, or the ordinate value of the value in the green box, it adds up to 666, which maybe is just like leaving a fingerprint that This is not an accident that all this is happening, okay? Which points to Antichrist. So, I think that's pretty cool. He asked for a sign, David did, and I think he got one. Okay, ELS. This is a new math topic now that God does, the equidistant letter sequencing. And we'll start with an easy one. Back in Genesis 2, it says, "Thus the heavens and earth were completed and all their hosts. By the seventh day God completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the Shabbat from all his work which he had done. And God blessed the Shabbat and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created to do." Here it is in the English, here it is in the Hebrew, and in the Hebrew, every 7 letters apart, it spells Israel. And we'll start right here. Start there, count 7 letters. You get a shin, count 7 letters, you get a resh. 7 letters, you get an aleph. 7 letters, you get a lamed. Well, that's kind of clever that he spells, and it could be an accident, could be coincidence, but it does spell Israel every 7 letters. And 7 we know is one of God's, it's big numbers, okay? Another one of God's big numbers is 50, right? The Jubilee year is 50 years, okay? This same passage, he has Israel every 50 letters apart, okay? But backwards, yes. Start down here and go back 50, and then go back 50.
Like a crazy word search.
Yeah. So, kind of cool. All right. Letter sequencing. Equidistant, because letters are equidistant apart. Here's Isaiah 53. I don't have all of it on the screen. There's too much it's too big to put all of it on one. Everything would be really tiny and you wouldn't be able to see it. So I just took a couple verses, from 53:9 to 54:1. Okay? I'm going to show you what's in that section, and then I'll show you other sections and what's in there. Now, 53 Isaiah, that's the big one, right? That's huge. That's the one the Jews don't read because they don't know how to explain it. I mean, it's a picture of Jesus on the cross, okay? In fact, right here, if you start at this yod, and what I've done here is I've put 20 letters across in my grid. I can choose however many I want, right? I chose 20, and if I start here at this yod and I count -20, well, -20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I get a shin. And I'd count -20 again, I get a vav. -20 again, I get an ayin. And when I do that, I end up with this phrase, Yeshua Shemi. Yeshua is Yeshua. Shem, what does Shem mean? Name. And you put a yod on the end. My name, Shemi. Jesus is my name. I just counted backwards, 20 letters, every 20.
Just like in the word search, you got to figure out where that first letter is.
Yeah, this is not something you can pick up the Bible and just pick one and, this is in there. And the only reason it's been found is because we have supercomputers and people who are searching for them. And God put them in there knowing no one's going to discover this until 2010, whenever a supercomputer, but he was looking ahead and hiding things. Understand? Yes. Yes. And in this one, it's where you start has a big thing. And how much do you skip? And do you skip forwards or backwards? Okay. And, at some point, maybe it's just a coincidence, because you could pick up a copy of Moby Dick, and there's maybe a certain spot where you start and count every 63 letters and it spells Irene. It would just be coincidence. Okay. But it becomes less of a coincidence when other words show up in the same grid. So here we have Jesus is my name in Isaiah 53 grid. We also have it intersecting Moshiach. Mashiach is every 42. You start here. If you go back 42, you're at a shin, which is part of Yeshua's name.
Which makes it really important.
Yeah, it ties in that Yeshua and Mashiach are crossing one another. Okay? And it's nice that it's a 42 skip. Why is 42 so special? Hey, Will, how you doing? Why is 42 important? Because the Messiah is man, 6, and he's God, 7. 6 times 7 is 42. 42 is a number tied very tightly to Mashiach, right? There's 42 generations, okay? So there's a skip of 42, and it's intersecting with Yeshua, Mashiach, okay? And in the same grid, we have here a skip of positive 52, and it says, I was crucified, every 52 letters apart. And that starts at the top and goes down, okay, the green. Also, in the purple letters, every -7 letters, it spells evil Roman city, which they had something to do with this crucifixion, right? I mean, Isaiah 53 is about the crucifixion. Now, just because it starts getting really busy, right? If you start, I'm running out of colors, and so I'm going to just clear the board and use the same grid. Remember, all those things you just saw are still there. Okay, I left that one there because that's Jesus is my name. Just give you a point of reference. Let's see, what else happened at the crucifixion? Oh, I know. Mary was at the crucifixion, right? So every 23 negative 23 spells Miriam, Mary. Which Mary?
Don't make it clear.
Oh, this is Mary Magdalene. No, this is Mary, his mother. This is Mary Magdalene. There is. I don't know which one is which. They're both Marys. Because there were 2 Marys. No, actually, you're wrong. There were 3 Marys at the cross. Yeah, here's the third one. Yeah, Mary, the wife of Cleopas, was there. Yeah. So all 3 Marys were at the cross, and all 3 of them are in the grid, spaced apart. I read somebody else's research. Remember the other night we said with Rambam was hidden in there. We don't know. Someday in eternity, God's going to say, oh, Donna, let me show you where your name is. And he'll say, look, if you start here and count every 73,412 letters, it spells Donna. Right now, you have no idea where to start or how many to skip. Same here. Somebody did find these, but not everything is found. You cannot use this equidistant letter sequencing to predict the future because you don't know what to tell the computer to look for. But once something happens, you can tell the computer, hey, look for this. And it can go through and look and maybe find that something is in there. And it has to all be done in Hebrew also. Okay. By the way, also, John, Yochanan, in the dark purple, he was at the cross here. Okay. And he's there with a negative 28 skip. Also, Peter has a negative 14 skip. He's in here. Okay. And let's go ahead and do a clean slate again. And this is a little bit earlier, Isaiah, but James is in there at a negative 20 skip, and another James at a negative 34 skip. Philip is in here. We just missed one here. Simeon is in here at a 47 skip. Isaiah 53, Thomas is here. Andrew is here. Galilee is in here. His cross is in here. Let him be crucified. That phrase is in here at a positive 15 skip. Thaddeus is a negative 50 skip. Lechem, bread. Vino, yayin, wine. Shiloh is in here. This is all in Isaiah 53. And I think that might be all that I put. But there's a bunch more. It's just I got tired of sitting and counting letters. So that's kind of cool that he just put everything in one really important passage. Okay? Here's maybe the earliest equidistant letter sequencing that I have found. Here's Genesis 1:1 through 1:5, right? In fact, you should be able to read this, yes? All right, at least the first couple words here. Here's Bereshit, bara, Elohim et hashemayim va'et haaretz. So this is a skip. Here, I've put 25 across. Okay? I get to choose. Yeah, I picked 25 across just because it fits on a page. Okay? And because I'm skipping 50, if I start here, if I go 25, I'm right below it. And if I go another 25, that's 50. So my letters should line up if there's a skip of 50. If I put 25 across, they should line up every other, okay? Well, when I do that, if I start at the very first tav in the Bible, and I'm going to skip 50, I get a vav. And another 50 is a resh, and another 50 is a hey, and those four letters spell Torah. Nice, huh? So let's just park that up here. And let's look in Exodus. In Exodus, I come across here to the first tav. And I'm going to count 50 letters. I get a vav, and another 50 is a resh, and another 50 is a hey. And it happens in Torah also. Yeah. So both of those spells 50 every letters. There's more, you think? Here's Numbers. Numbers does something backwards. Here, he starts with a hey and counts 50 resh, 50 vav, 50 tav. It spells Torah backwards. Okay?
That's because you're on the other side.
Of the equator?
You're on the other side of the
Yeah.
you're on the other half of the five.
Yeah. Yes, it's their reflections. And if we look in Devarim, Deuteronomy, it's a 49 skip,
Oh.
not a 50. So they don't line up. They do line up, but on a diagonal, not up and down. Why did he go from 50 to 49? I don't know. Because he wants to. Yeah. So put that up here. And that spells Torah backwards, those two. Well, that's what I was wondering. What about Leviticus? What about Leviticus? Well, let's make some room here for Leviticus. Here, I don't need a big grid. I'm going to make a little grid of 8 by 8. And this is the beginning of Leviticus. Look at the first word is Va'ikra. Va'ikra is Leviticus, okay? And I'm going to start with the second letter, which is a yod, and I'm going to skip 8. Yod He Vav He, skip of 8, Yahweh. So everything is pointing in the center. This is Torah, Torah backwards. Torah, Torah backwards. Yahweh in the center, the skip of 8. Nice? Okay, what else we got? All right, here's Genesis 41 through Exodus 23. Well, that's a lot. So I couldn't fit it all on here, but if I start here at Genesis 41, and I'm going to go, and then I'm going to go about 3,400 letters more, and then it circles back around. And then I'm going to go 3,400 and some letters more, and it circles back around. You understand?
It's a big rectangle.
It's a huge rectangle. But we're only going to look at this part of the rectangle. Okay? I don't care what's out there. I just want to show you what all is hidden in this section of it. Okay? Because he really had to, no, he didn't have to do a lot of thinking. He just had to say it. But he lumped all the good stuff here, and then skipped 3,000 some letters. If I start right here, this is this. Okay? Just took the markers out. And I'm going to start here at this hay. And we're going to go backwards 3,400 and some. And it's not the same. It's going to be 4 less than bringing it the whole way around. So it'll be on a diagonal. Yeah, you get this letter, and then this one, and then this one, this one, this one, this one. And that spells the twins in Hebrew. Okay. Here I have this word, and this is not even skipping. This is just plain text, correct? The plain text says Migdalim. There's a mem, gimel, dalet, lamed, yod, mem. Migdal is a tower. And Migdalim, towers. Okay? Look at that. We got the twins, and we have towers. And they're touching each other. So they're connected. Towers and twin interconnect. Here's green up and down. So this is an exact skip, right? It's a 3,404 skip. If that's the number, I forget what the actual number is. But it's a perfect skip.
The computer found it.
Yeah, the computer found it. And can anyone read what's in that green? I'm sure you can, and you'll ooh and ah when you hear it. Bin Laden. Yes, that's a bet. Bet, yod, noon. Bin. Lamed, Aleph, Dalet, Noon. Laden. Bin Laden. Okay?
You wouldn't know to look until after it happened.
Yes, you would never search for it. So God can show this later. Look, I knew the future. I had it right here. And I put it all on one page for you. So there's Bin Laden. Here, these 4 letters. It's a skip of 2, right? They're 2 letters apart. And those 4 letters up here spell terror attack in Hebrew. Okay. Here, the gold going up and down. Let's start at the top and read down. Aleph Lamed Pei. What's Aleph Lamed Pei? Aleph Lamed Pei. Aleph. It's Aleph, right? That's how you spell Aleph. It could also be Aleph. Could be 1,000, right? And if you want to pluralize that word Aleph, you either put a Yud Mem on it, Elephim, or you can just put a Yud on the end and it'll pluralize it. It happens sometimes. So here's Aleph. With a Yod, that's Elephi. That's thousands. And here's Aleph Yud Shin. That's the word Ish. No, that's Aish. Man. So it's thousands of people is what it's Elephi, Ish.
And they're stacked up as if in a tower.
So it's thousands of people up and down here. And here, the purple, it's a skip of 3404 or whatever, and it spells murder. So all of this intersects, and it kind of lets you know God knew this was going to happen. That's enough for me convinced. I think God knew this. Yeah. To hide all of that. Okay. Okay, this had nothing to do with the lesson, but I thought you need to know this. It has a little biblical tie-in, I guess. He wants to spend, the crazy Democrats, want to spend $3.5 trillion, plus other spending packages they've got. Yeah, but I want you to know what is 1 trillion, because that's a number that we just can't get our heads around, okay? So how big is a trillion? We know a minute is 60 seconds. And minute length might vary in New York and Tennessee. Haven't you heard of a Tennessee minute? Or a New York minute? Oh, okay. Okay, a minute is 60 seconds. An hour is 3,600 seconds. A day is 86,400 seconds. A year is 31,536,000 seconds. That's 1 year.
Nowhere close to a trillion.
Not close to a trillion. It's been 2,000 years since Christ. 2,000 years is 63 billion, 72 million seconds. Still not at a trillion. Okay. It's been 6,000 years since Adam and Eve. And that would be 189 billion, 216 million seconds. It's still not near a trillion. You would have to go 31,709 years to reach 1 trillion seconds. So that means the government can spend $1 per second for 31,709 years. And that's just 1 trillion. And they want to spend $3.5 trillion on just one bill. Okay? So we are at a point, God put the rules to begin with. He said, listen, every 50 years, you forgive all the debts and you start over again. And if we would have been listening to him, you'd never be in this position where we're probably 100 trillion in debt with all of our unfunded liabilities and, you know. So just know, even from now back to Adam and Eve isn't even not even close. Okay, and this is per second, spending $1 per second. Okay, what's next? Okay, Hebrews 9, it talks about the tabernacle and their temple here. Behind the second veil, there was a tabernacle, which is called the Holy of Holies, having a golden altar of incense, and the Ark of the Covenant covered on all sides with gold, in which was a golden jar holding manna, and Aaron's rod which budded, and the tables of the covenant. Right? Inside the Ark of the Covenant, there were three things. Right? Aaron's rod, a bowl of manna, and the tablets. Let's look at those. Here's the manna, Haman. Here's the rod of Aaron. And this is how the Bible describes these. Okay? And there are the tablets. Let's put the gematria values in for the three items inside the ark, and they add up to 853. And all of these three things point to Yeshua. He's the bread, he's the word, right? And he's the life, the dead stick that budded. Okay? And the word Mashiach adds up to 358. So it's showing that the Messiah is these. A reflection. Okay, we good? What's this one? The entirety of your word is truth. Okay, I remember what this is. And every one of your righteous judgment endures forever. I'm not even sure. Yeah. The word for truth is amet. 441 it adds up to. 441 is 21 times 21. Right? Again, perfect square, just like Psalm 86 when it's a perfect square. And God said to Moses, I am who I am, Ehyah, Ashur Ehyah. Here's Ehyah, adds up to 21 times 21. 21 times 21 is truth. Then when he said Ehyah, Ashur Ehyah, he had twice Ehyah is 21, 21, gives you 441 truth, which is 3 times 7 times 3 times 7. There's our 3 sevens. Now we're going to look at the first words and the first letters of first and last words and letters of the Torah. Okay, Genesis 1:1. Well, we know it starts out Bereshit bara Elohim. The first word is Bereshit. It means in beginning. The first letter is Bet, and Bet is 2. Everybody happy with what I'm doing? I'm looking at the first word of each book and the first letter of each book. Okay. Next, Exodus begins with a Vav, and it's called Shemot, right? Shemot is, these are the names. First letter of Exodus is a Vav. Leviticus starts out Vayikra is the first word. Vayikra, Vayikra. Where do I have it in Hebrew? Va is and, Yod is he, Kara is to call out. Okay? And that Yod represents Yahweh. Okay? And Yahweh called out. And the Lord called out. First letter of Vayikra is Vav. Numbers is, there's the first verse of Numbers, and it's Bamidbar is its name. Ba is in, Midbar is wilderness. First letter of Numbers is a Vav. First letter, yep. And Deuteronomy is called Debarim. Debar is word. Debarim, words. These are his words. That's what Debarim means. And the first letter is an Aleph. Everybody happy with what I'm doing there? Okay. When I do that, you know, here's the 5 books of the Torah. If I was Jewish, those 5 words, and by the way, if I just read them in English, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, you would just say, yeah, those are just 5 words, right? 5 books of the Bible. If you read them in Hebrew, you would say Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Debarim. And when a Jew hears those 5 words, what does the Jew hear? He hears, in beginning, these are the names the Lord called out in the wilderness, and these are his words. Understand? That's very clever, that the first words mean something in Hebrew. Let's look at the last word of each book of the Torah. Okay? Genesis, here's 50:26, and Joseph was 110 years old, and he died and was buried in a coffin in Egypt. That's the last verse of Genesis. Okay? It's amazing. Genesis starts out, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Boom, big, great. And it ends, and he was buried in a coffin in Egypt. Mankind just kind of, you know. So here's in Egypt, Bamitzraim is the last word of that. In Egypt, that's Egypt. And the last letter is a mem, Mitzrayim. Exodus, the last word is this word right here, Masahem. It means journeys, and its last letter is a mem, also 40. Okay. Leviticus, the last word here is Sinai, and the last letter is a yod, 10. In Numbers, the last word here is Jericho. Jericho. And the last letter is a Vav, 6. And in Deuteronomy, the last word is Israel. And the last letter is a Lamed, 30. You see what I've done? No worries? No. That's it. If you look at their history, they were slaves in Egypt. And then they left and they journeyed. And they journeyed until they got to Sinai. And they got the law. And then when they entered the promised land, the first thing they hit was Jericho. And then they fought and they ended up with Israel. So it gives the history of their Jews in the last words of each book of the Torah. Yeah. So, and here we can put in we have the gematria values. If I add up the gematria values of the first letters, 21, which is 3 times 7, right? And just on, this was on a whim, I thought, I'm going to add up the last letters and see if there's any magic number. And when I did, it came to 126, and I thought 126, that doesn't ring any bells for me, so I don't know what 126 is. And I was about to close the computer, and I thought, wait, 126, that is 6 times 21, right? So that's 6 times 3 times 7. And if you take the firsts and the lasts, that's 147, which is 7 times 3 times 7. The first and last added together. So there's order in everything he does. Oh, by the way, that concludes our show. Now let's have a bonus. Ah, so good. All right. Okay. Does anybody understand base 2? What even base 2 represents? Yes, no? Base 2? Okay. Yeah. Maybe imagine in base 10, you have the ones column. And you can put a 1 in here, a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you want bigger than 9, you put 0, and then you put a 1 in the next column, right? So then you have 10. You have 1 10 and no ones. That's base 10. In base 2, all you have for digits are 0 and 1. So you can put a 1 in this column, but you can't put a 2 in this column because there are no 2s in base 2. You have to put a 0 and go over here and put a 1. Whenever this gets to 2, you have to add 1 to the next column. Here's an example. 7, the number 7 we use every day, base 10. If I want to write that in base 2, it's 1, 1, 1. This is your ones column. This is the twos column. This is the 4 column. So I have 1, 4. I have 1, 2. And I have 1, 1. 7. Make sense? Your columns aren't ones, tens. It's not ones, tens, hundreds. It's 1s, 2s, 4, 8, 16. You double 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Those are your columns, okay? Because you can only put 1s and 0s in for a number. So just you'll understand more when I show you what we're going to show you. But let's go on. And we're going to look at the first 4 words of the Bible. Bereshit, bara, Elohim, et. In the beginning, God created. Okay? Bereshit, we know, adds up to 913. Good. Bara adds up to 203. Elohim adds up to 86. And et adds up to 401. And we'll look at all 4 of them right there. Yep. No worries. Okay, and I'm going to just move them over to the side here. And in base 10, if I wanted 913, 913 is 100, 900s, 110, and 3 1s. Okay? And likewise, 203. Something's happening here. What the? It's like the cord got shorter or something.
It got looped around the back. Can I help you?
Are we good?
Let's see if that's better.
It's like, yeah, yes, I can turn my head now. 86 is 8 10s and 6 1s. Right? That's base 10. Let's look at base 2. See, now we don't have 1s, 10s. We have these columns, 1s, 2s, 4s. Yes, so if I want to do 913, 913, you wouldn't write 913. Here's 913. It's 11100100001 because you need one of those. I need one of these. I need one of 128. I don't need one of those. I don't need one of those. I do need one of those, and I need one of those. Make sense? Okay, that's the computer language using the ones and zeros. Okay? So it's doing this again. What?
You might just want to take it out and just like while you're looking at it.
Oh, it's caught on there.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely wasn't going to touch that.
Oh, we're on live on the internet. I forgot. Maybe we were out of camera range when I was over there. No. Oh, well. Okay. So that's how you would write 913. And I'm going to color in the boxes that had ones in them. You know, yeah, see, the ones get colored in, the zeros don't. Okay? Here's Bara. Bara, you need 128 plus a 64 plus an 8 plus a 2 plus a 1. That'll get you 203. You with me? Okay? And we'll color those in. Elohim is 86. That's how you write 86. And 401 is Et. So we'll color those in. So that's what you get if you color them in. Okay? And instead of multicolors, I'm going to kind of boil it down to 2 colors. Maybe we'll make these blue and these brown. And when we do that, of course, it spells L. Because that's an Aleph, and that's a Lamed. And when it says, in the beginning God created, he knows binary numbers, and he put his name there. Is that cool? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I'm telling you, if I gave you a 4x5 grid and said, color that in to look like an Aleph, that's as close as you're going to get to an Aleph. You know, anything else you color is going to make it less Alephy. Okay? Mm-hmm. What's our time? This is the one that you liked from a while back. Do you want to see it again? Sure. Okay. This is like bonus number 2, and I have a third bonus, and then we'll be out of here. Well, I got 2 up this Thomas first. This you're about to see is spectacular. Okay. The Jews, there's a famous rabbi named, they call him Rambam. That's his nickname. It's an acronym, because his name is Rabbi Resh Moses ben Mammon, RMBM, Rambam. And he was born on Passover in 1135 AD. So that's 1135 years after Jesus. And he died in 1204 in Egypt. Okay? Good. And he's famous for, he wrote a 14-volume set called Mishnah Torah. Well, Torah, you know. Mishnah is the laws of the Torah. So he went through with a fine-tooth comb looking for every law that the Torah has listed in it. Okay? When he finished, he determined that there are 248 thou shalts, there are 365 thou shalt nots, for a total of 613 total laws in the Torah, and that number is pretty much agreed upon by Jews today. That's how they all believe, that there's 613 laws in the Torah. Okay? And he's probably right, because they've been studying ever since, and they're not finding any more. So there's 613 laws, remember that. And now we're going to look in Exodus 11, starting in verse 9. And here it is in the Hebrew. And here, let me just let you know what's happening. The Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders will be multiplied in the land of Egypt. God told Moses, you go tell the Pharaoh, let my people go. But Pharaoh's not going to listen to you, so that my wonders will be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Because I'm going to start sending some plagues on this guy. All right? So, but he's letting Moses know. He's going to tell him no. In that verse, notice on the third line, there are 4 words here. There's this word that begins with a resh, and there's this word that begins with a mem. This word begins with a bet, and this word begins with a mem. There is nowhere else in the Bible where you have 4 words next to each other that begin R-M-B-M. And what is R-M-B-M? Rambam. Isn't that spectacular? You were like, well, I waited. I could have been home watching TV. I waited around for that. That's the big wow? No, that's just the first tip of the iceberg. But you do see those 4. It begins with a resh, mem, bet, mem. Now, I'm going to take that passage and make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to start with 11:9, and here's 11:10. And then that's the end of that chapter. Then here's 12:1, and here's 12:2. And you can see in 11:9, here's the RMBM. We just saw that, right? Now, in that same passage, I'm going to start right here at this mem, and I'm going to count 50 letters, which gets me to a shin, and 50 more that gets me to a noon, and 50 more that gets me to a hey. It spells Mishnah. Well, that's interesting because that's the first word of the book that he wrote, right? Mishnah Torah. Okay. Then, so here's Rambam. Here's Mishnah, the 4 purples. Then I'm going to, I made these all small just so I could fit them all on one page. But we're going to move down here to this letter Tav. And when we do that, I'm going to start counting 50 and 50 and 50. And I get T-O-R-H, Torah. It spells Torah every 50 letters apart. Wow. I got Mishnah, 50 letters apart, Torah, 50 letters apart, in the same passage that has RMBM, Rambam's name, beginning words. Now, this is, what, a couple thousand years BC, and Rambam ain't going to show up till 1000 AD, right? So we're 3,000 years apart early. He's got this in here. So that's cool. Now, look, Torah, 50 letters apart. So I got Rambam's name beginning 4 words. I got Mishnah top every 50. I got Torah below every 50. And, these letters, the little letters after Mishnah until Torah begins, I made them all orange. All those little orange letters. There are 613 letters. There are 613 letters there between Mishnah ending and Torah beginning. Okay. And this passage that we're covering, because here he's saying, I want you to, Pharaoh's going to say no so that my wonders will be, okay. Then he proceeds in chapter 12 of Exodus, to talk about the Passover. I want you to, on the 10th day of the month, You bring a lamb in. That's what it's saying in those orange letters. On the 10th day, you will bring in a lamb. You will live with it for 4 days. On the 14th day, you will kill it and put the blood on the doorpost. Yada, yada, yada. Okay? You can't boil the sheep. You have to eat it all. It has to be burned up, and no broken bones. All the little rules. Okay, and right here in the green letters in the circle, that's where he's telling them on the 14th day of Nisan, you were to kill the lamb and put the blood on the door. Anybody remember anything about the 14th day of Nisan?
Passover Eve.
Yeah, I told you at the beginning that was Rambam's birthday. He was born on Passover. Yeah. So not only does he have Rambam's name and Mishnah and Torah and 613, he also has Rambam's birthday right in the middle of the whole thing. So yeah, he must get some kind of credit because God put him in Exodus. 3,000 years before he even showed up. And this is why I believe that, he says, our names are going to be written in the book of life. I believe the Torah is the book of life. Okay? And our names are in there. I don't know how many letters apart. I don't know where to start. Okay? By the way, Moses, they call Moses Moshe Rabbeinu, which is our Rabbi Moses. Okay? So that's Moshe Rabbeinu. And if you put in the values of Moshe Rabbeinu, they add up to 613, which he's the one who brought down the tablets. Okay, now here's our last little bonus, and then we can go. Here we're going to look at Genesis 45:26 through 46:32. So that's less than one chapter, right? And there is the whole thing, small and in English, which, huh? Oh, you just copy, paste, and shrink. Yeah, are you going to copy the whole thing down? Should we wait? Good. Because I do have a flight on Monday. Okay, so I don't care what it says in English for my example. So let's turn it into Hebrew. And I changed the Hebrew here to every other word, right? So you can color code when one word ends and the next word begins, black and gray. By the way, you know how that... that's nothing. Where do you see what's coming? Not only do you have to color code them back and forth, but then you have to line them up vertically. Now here they're not lined up yet, I did justify them, okay? And I put them in a 95 grid. So there's 95 letters across, and then it circles back around. Remember, you can choose whatever number you want for the width. And we're going to look at just, not the whole 95 grid, but just the part inside this red box. Okay? So right now, the next picture you're going to see is the red box expanded. And you'll notice that now I had to line up the letters. Yes? Okay. This, my friends, is like stacking BBs. Because there's no font or you can put in that automatically lines up Hebrew on top of each other. So you have to type in the word, and then I have to color code either black or gray, and then I have to put a space between the yod and the aleph, and I have to make the space either reduce it or enlarge it so that it lines up with the ones below it. And all that Isaiah 53 stuff you saw earlier, same thing. All that one with twin towers and same thing. It took days and days to line up these letters. So I want you to ooh, and then I want you to ah, and then I want you to ooh again. Because it just takes forever to line up. And if you don't line up, it's not as impressive. Okay, when I do that, I'm going to start at this letter Kuf. Yep, because I can. And I'm going to do a negative 95 skip. Now, well, that's nice, because I put 95 across. So if I'm doing a 95 skip, things should line up. So you see how I pick my skip, or how I pick, how many across. So I do that. When I go 95 backwards, well, start there and come around here. I get right here, I get a vav. Okay, so I have a kuf and a vav. Vav, by the way, makes the V sound, but it also makes an O sound at times. Okay, and just to give you a heads up, it's going to make O sounds in this word, so you guys can start guessing what word is coming here. Okay, it's not a V, it's an O. And I'm going to do it again and again and again and again. And so I get a big long word of 6 letters. Is that 6? Yep. And if you had to guess what that word is, spelling 95 letters apart. Corona. I like it. Corona is hidden in this passage 95 letters apart. That's cool. Okay. Let's see what else he's got in this little grid. Here. These 4 letters, this is a skip of 2, right? It's only 2 apart. It's actually negative 2 because we're reading it this way. And this is a noon, a gimel, a yod, and a pei. It spells nagif. I actually called my friend Raquel in Israel and said, Raquel, what does these 4 letters spell? She said, oh, that's nagif. I said, what does it mean? And what I'm about to tell you it means is what she told me it means. So this has been confirmed by a Jewish Hebrew, Israeli-born Hebrew speaker. Nagif is the Hebrew word for virus. Okay? So I have corona and I have virus in the same grid. Don't wow yet. No premature wowing. Here we have a grid, a skip of negative 190. What's nice about 190, it's 95 times 2, right? So that should line up, but skipping a line. What's 19?
Because it's COVID-19.
Oh,
Is what they're saying.
I see, yeah. So here we have a vav. The vav is the V sound. You know, the vav also is a W.
The W sound.
It makes a W sound, right? Because it's like in Yahweh. Okay, so there's a W sound. There's an H, hey. Aleph is A. N is noon. Wuhan. That's nice.
What else is in there?
What else? Let's see. These three letters. Here, these three letters, read backwards, is the Hebrew word for, it's right here, it's seen, but it's the Hebrew word for China. China, the China virus. So we got Wuhan, China. We got coronavirus. Right here, here's a nice one. This is a skip of 3. A skip of 3 is Yod, Pei, Resh, Sadi. And if you pronounce it, it's Iperetz. Now, does that word Perez, huh? As in France? No. No, who was Perez? Sounds like 2 syllables. Time's up. Judah and Tamar. Judah and Tamar had twins, right? And the first one put its hand out. And who was that? It was Zerach. And when Zerach put the hand out, they tied a red string. Then Zerach pulled the hand back. That Zerach's hand, that's a picture of Israel. Israel was called forth. They got the covenant, a red string, the covenant red. And then when the Messiah showed up, Israel pulled back. Then the other boy, he burst forth. And the Hebrew word for burst forth is peretz. So we will call him peretz because he peretzed. That's what the verse says. He burst forth, so we'll call him burst forth. Okay? And that Peretz is a picture of the Gentiles. Okay? And eventually, Zerach was born. And eventually the Jews are going to get their Messiah. But until then, Peretz is the one who come out first. Okay, so this spells, Peretz means burst forth. And in the same section, or in the same grid, in plain text, see here it's a skip that says Peretz, and here in just plain text it says Peretz. So there's some bursting forth going on twice. And what does Peretz mean? It means will burst forth. So we have Wuhan, China will burst forth the coronavirus. And it's all in a grid of 95 by 18 lines here, but pretty cool. Oh, is it? 6. Okay. Yeah, you can find the word God. God, G is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. G is the 7th letter. O, G, H, I, J, 15? Yes. O is 15, and D is 4. Adds up to 26. Like Yahweh does, God. Yeah. You'll get these coincidences like that, but, and let me tell you, there are websites on where people are doing gematria with English Bible, English letters. And that is a waste of time. Because God doesn't, and I'm not saying, I mean, it does do that, but don't spend your life looking for hidden secrets in the English. Because first of all, there's a million different translations. King James translated different than NIV and different than this. So which version do you use? At least we know the Hebrew is the same, right? So you don't know which version to use in the English looking for big things, but it is cool that things like that do happen. And I think that is all. Yep. Okay. Oh, good. All right, let's say a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us out. Thank you for the beautiful day it turned out to be. We ask that you give us another week's worth while I'm here and bring us back safely tomorrow. Thank you for revealing all this cool stuff that you've hidden. And may there be peace in Jerusalem. And we ask this in Yeshua Jesus' precious name. Amen.